It's been a very enjoyable episode to see this one. A Fenton episode where we show the clumsiness of Fenton, as well as a character that was also in the old series. Completely revamped this time, just like many others. She doesn't even look remarkably like the girl from before. At least I think this is the same one. The Angry Anime Fan, and this is Ducktales. Woohoo! Which is episode 15, the so-called the dangerous chemistry of Gandra Dee. Fenton unintentionally reveals his secret identity to Webby, although that is thanks to Huey's little talk and Webby putting things together, because it turns out that Fenton has a very big trouble keeping his secret identity. I guess it goes hand to hand with Bob being a superhero. But for some reason has even managed to reveal it to the mailman, and everyone in his block knows it's him. During the time Huey and Webby are going to a special shop to get for certain parts, Fenton enters an interesting dialogue with a very beautiful, if not a little bit strange, girl called Gandra Dee, someone who works part-time here to support her lab, as she reveals she is, very interested in science and has a lab of her own. During that time, though, Fenton is not so very sure he wants to ask her out on a date, but because of Huey and Webby's interference, it becomes like a date, although Fenton always denies that. And during that time, even his own mother, who comes back into the story, helps them by giving Fenton a nice new jacket. A very side note here, that Launchpad is very briefly in this episode, and he actually mentions something very interesting, which I wish we will see in the future, but I highly doubt we will. We all know that Launchpad seems to have been on wild adventures himself, and he also has many ex-lovers. This episode actually reveals how many different ex-lovers he has had, and that is no small feat. A ninja, a forbidden mermaid, a clone of himself, a Viking shield maiden, a dust of cloud. So yeah, Launchpad has really been around. There is some implication to say that he is bisexual, and if he has been together with a clone of himself, then yeah. I do hope we will see his ex-lovers one day, because I actually wonder how can they date a doofus like Launchpad. I guess in the end it's because, well, Launchpad is very kind-hearted. So either way, Fenton takes Gandra to Professor Gyro's lab, which Webby have locked him in the closet and then turned into a dramatic date. During this moment, Fenton slowly begins to really fall for Gandra, but then it's revealed that Gandra is sponsored by none other than Mark's Beaks, who wants to have the technology or interest of Gizmoduck again. Turns out that Gandra is an expert in nanotechnology, has injected herself with small amount of it to create electric shocks. She gave some to Mark Speaks only because he kept on begging, and he has been devouring it more and more and more. Eventually, though, Mark Beaks, not being the patient man, breaks into it, crushes everything, and then steals something from the lab, and then utilizes the programming of the nanites to become Mega Beaks, a hulking monster that makes short works of, Gizmoduck. Fenton Gizmoduck is very broken up about that Gandra lied to him, but also Gandra reveals that she is actually more kinder than she cares to admit. Later on, Fenton tries to confront Marx himself. It also seems to reveal that one of the reasons for Mark's ego is because he have had an abusive parent, especially when he catches a ball and says, "Well, who's the loser now, Coach Dad?" But in the end, through Gandra and the Fenton's integrity, and as well as a redirecting ball thing that Fenton invented, they managed to shock out the nanocircuits in Mark Beaks, but mostly because he gets so distracted about not being able to play his phone anymore in his hulking form. Gandra and Fenton depart, but on much better terms, as Fenton returns to his lab, or the lab, who is pretty much destroyed. Much to Gyro's things. So yeah, this was a very heartwarming episode. Fenton now has run into the girl. I think this Gandra was in the old series as well, but she looks completely different from before. And I do like her design. She has a very punkish outfit, which I really like. But what else is there to say about the thing? Well, Mark Beeks was more enjoyable to watch this time. Yes, he's still an insufferable villain, but when he became Mega Beaks, he legitimately became very dangerous if it wasn't for his ego. The fact that his line, well, who's the loser now, coach? That. Launchpad wasn't so much in this scene, but I have to say his words about how much he has gotten around, yeah, that was one liner to it all. And Fenton, yeah, well, Fenton is awesome. So give me your thoughts if you have any.